It's the ESCtips.com Melodifestivalen podcast, bringing you unrivaled coverage of Eurovision's premier selection show.
If you love Schlager, bad pronunciation and all things Swedish, stay tuned to ESCtips.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome, bienvenue, willkommen, bienvenidos, benvenuti, benvindo, welcome, tervetuloa, and if you're listening in Australia, g'day mate, to the second ESC Tips podcast of 2015, where we will be previewing the Melodifestivalen final, which takes place this Saturday at Friends Arena in Stockholm. My name's Andy Redfern, at ScandyAndy on Twitter. Work commitments meant I couldn't make the last podcast, and I suppose in Melodifestival terms, that made me something of an absent friend. So, who else have we got? Well, to start with, he's the owner and main writer of ESCtips.com. Last time, after I pulled out at the last minute, he showed he wasn't the worrying kind. As producer of this podcast, he frequently has to undo my bad. Welcome, Gavin Lambert, the Gavster.
Welcome to you, Andy, for the first time this year.
My pleasure. Who's up next? Well, dag efter dag, he writes about long-forgotten Eurovision songs and national finals at topsonineuroland.blogspot.com. When he likes a song, he can never let it go. He's a freelance broadcaster and journalist, and quite frankly, for us, something of a hero. Welcome from Helsinki, Tobias Larsson.
Well, thank you. Like, with an introduction like that, I mean, you feel like the king of I don't know, everything. It feels great to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back, and quite frankly, I was quite disappointed that without me, you three gentlemen actually probably made the best podcast we've ever made, which does point to a certain weak link, but I'm carrying on anyway, which will probably disappoint our final guest. He's equally at home in Piccadilly Circus or Las Vegas. Last time, when I wasn't here, he complained that I talk too much. I ask you, är det här du kallar kärlek? Maybe we'll make it up en gång i Stockholm. He is Aftonbladet's Melodifestivalen correspondent and general entertainment correspondent. He is Torbjörn.
Hi, Andy. I will try to be a bit more quiet so that you can speak even more now, Andy, since you weren't present last time and you weren't able to speak at all.
Well, quite frankly, I've done most of my speaking now. I leave it to you, the expert. Well, I'll start with you, Torbjörn, so you can exercise your vocal cords, as you so like to do, clearly. What has been, can you give me a general review of Melodifestivalen 2015 so far?
Well, I would say that this year has been a much better year than last year. Sanna and Robin as hosts have been well received. Sanna especially has impressed the Swedish audience with her comic timing as well as her singing. So I would say that overall so far it's been people have really turned in to watch the show more this year than last year, and they've been enjoying themselves, meaning that the songs also have turned out to be more popular this year rather than last year. Although the Andra Chansen broadcast was probably one of the most boring shows I have ever seen in Melodifestivalen, but I think that it's 1 out of 5. It's all right to do a bad show, and I'm sure the final will be exciting as ever.
I would certainly agree on your views about Sandrine Nielsen. When I heard about her, I didn't see her as somebody with, well, much of a sense of humour or able to carry this off, and she's proved me wrong, definitely. I love the song I orkar, for example. Yeah. Which quite frankly overshadowed quite a few of the songs which were actually performing that time. But yes, generally she's been an excellent presenter. Tobias, would you agree?
I love Sandrine Nielsen. I've always loved Sandrine Nielsen, and I was pretty sure that she would pull this off. I would doubt very much that she would do something like this if she knew that there was a risk that she would be, embarrassing herself. So I'm not as surprised. I'm very pleased with her. But I must say that I agree with Tobbe that the shows in general have been better this year because they've been more structured. But I've been surprised to see how the SVT struggles to make quality entertainment. I think Melodifestivalen this year, it was said that they lost... there were only 7 songs per week this year, and they said that they would use that to fill the shows with more quality material and more quality entertainment. And I feel that hasn't been done at all. I feel that the shows have been dragging on very much. In Finland, one of the biggest problems is that you have too little material for too long time, and the shows get very slow and very undynamic. And I think that's been the case in Sweden this year. I would have expected much, much more of the actual shows. Plus, I think that the general standard of songs is actually quite low this year. Not low as in bad songs, but I feel that there are very few outstanding songs this year. And that's a disappointment for me.
With your comment about, the show's possibly dragging due to material, are you making a particular reference to, say, Filipe Bark, the character who's appeared in quite a lot of them?
Actually, I don't. I like the character of Filipe Bark, and I love the actress Sisla Ben who does Filipe Bark. I think she's a genius. Then I think that the SVT people have overestimated this character. That I think that she works best when she is in sort of shorter segments, when she goes in, do something awkward and leaves the scene. And now she's left to keep the show going for like 6 or 7 minutes. And I don't see the character really pulling that off. So I think the problem is much more in the planning. There's nothing wrong with Filipe Bark, but they left too much space in the show for this character, to my liking anyway.
Sorry, Torbjörn. Let Torbjörn talk. He needs to talk.
I can absolutely agree with this because I would have wanted more showstopper acts in between that wasn't only based on Sanna, Robin, and the the dancers and background singers taking place that is already there. I would have expected more other material coming in now when they have about 5 or 6 more minutes to fill since they've taken one song out.
And it's very samey also. After seeing the first week, it's been repeating the same idea that Sanna and Robin come in and they sing a little song with funny lyrics without being particularly sharp or anything. And it gets very... week 3, you know exactly what's going to happen, and there was no surprises.
Gavin, you are, out of the 4 of us, the non-Swedish speaker. So what have your impressions been about Melodifestivalen this year?
Well, some of it's obviously lost in translation for me, so I can kind of get the awkwardness of the situation with some of it. Last year I probably got more of it because there was a lot of video montages. I think there was there one where they did a big giant snowball or something?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was quite funny. That was a visual gag, so I could get that, that's fine. But going to the music, certainly the recent format of Melodifestivalen peaked in 2013, and since then it just feels as if they've lost momentum with the songs. And to echo Tobias's point, there's no real big hitters. Even the potential winner this weekend, which we'll get onto, the song, you wouldn't call it a massive big hitter. In fact, when it was played, and again we'll go on to this later, when it was played, the market took a bit of time to react to it. It was unsure. So, yeah, I think even though it's a weak field and someone will win very, very easily, I don't think the overall quality has helped this year at all.
Anyway, moving on to Saturday's contest from Friends Arena. it's time to reveal the lineup and the running order. We have Samir and Victor with Groupie, JTR, Building It Up, Dina Na with Make Me, La La La. We have Jon Henrik Fjällgren with Jag är fri, Jessica Andersson, Can't Hurt Me Now, Måns Zelmerlöw, Heroes, Linus Svenning, Forever Starts Today, Isa, Don't Stop, Magnus Carlson, Möt mig i Gamla stan, Erade, Sting, Mariette, Don't Stop Believing, and finally Hasse Andersson, Guld och gröna skogar. Now, where do we start? Possibly, who will do worst out of these 12? Tobias, Erade. Is he the new Anton Ewald in that he's just going to do badly and embarrass himself? What do you think?
I don't think he will embarrass himself on an Anton Ewald sort of scale. I don't think so, but I definitely don't think he's going to repeat his victory. He feels like he doesn't feel as strong as you would expect a former winner to feel. Not as I can sense it. There are others that sort of seem more up and coming and maybe more exciting and maybe more new and fresh than Erik Saade does. But to answer your question, who will be last? I actually have a sneaking feeling that it's pretty arbitrary when it comes to how people will vote. I think that maybe the international juries will get to decide who ends in last place or not. Because I feel that, I think that for the songs that will place sort of 7 to 12 in the televote, I think it will be very even numbers for them. I think it will be complete coincidence who ends in like 9th place and who ends in 12th place.
I kind of agree with him because since the televote points will be divided into percentage of how many percentage of the vote they will get. All 12 entries will get points, whereas the jury, the different juries will only give points to 8 out of 12 songs. So they will give 0 points to 4 songs, and I'm sure that a couple of songs will get 0 from each and every one of the juries. So it might very well be that the international jury will decide who comes last. Otherwise, in the televote, I would guess that Jessica Andersson, Magnus Carlson, and JTR might actually be performing not very well. And in the international jury, I'm quite sure that Groupie will be one of the songs in the very bottom.
Yeah, I agree.
Why do you think that Magnus Carlson will do badly in the televote? I mean, surely he's a bit of a darling in Sweden, isn't he?
He is a darling, but when it comes to the final, Swedes tend to vote for something that they want to represent Sweden internationally. They tend to vote for a song that they feel has an international feel, and this is a song in Swedish in a kind of traditional Schlager mode. And with that, I should, of course, have included Hasse Andersson in the bottom 4 or 5 as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. It's the sort of the Linda Bengtzing syndrome that people tend to want her in the final, and in the final they don't want her anymore. So then she bombs. I think Magnus Carlson will do something pretty similar to that, really.
And possibly Jessica Andersson as well.
I think Jessica can count on more jury votes. I think that the juries will keep her in quite a good position, and then she won't bomb completely in the televoting because she has her fans as well.
Yeah, I think someone like France will vote for Jessica. Interestingly, I think Mariette later in the running order will probably drain a bit of support for Jessica. But the juries, I agree. I think JTR and I think Groupie will be right down the bottom of their reckoning. Groupie will be saved by the televote, just simply because there are hordes of fans willing to actually do 80 votes each. So I expect them to get a reprieve and probably land somewhere between kind of 5th or 7th place on the final tally.
Tobias, can you tell me about how much you love Groupie by Samir and Victor?
Oh, I love it. Since, in 1973, a member of the Swedish Academy wrote the lyrics for the Swedish Eurovision entry. And I would almost think that that was the case again here, because Groupie is so deep and meaningful. And, Tobbe's colleague from Dagens Nyheter, Hanna Fahl, she wrote a fantastic little text about how this song is sort of the symbol of our times in a way that no other Melodifestivalen entry probably ever managed to. But she said that at the same time, it means that it's completely empty and meaningless and superficial and pretty bad. And I agree with every word of this. This is if we think that this is a song contest where songs compete on the same basis, then Groupie should be nowhere near the final. But it's a phenomenon. It's stupid, but it's funny, and they can't sing and they can't dance, but they are funny and sort of likable. And
they're so lovable.
Yeah, and I mean, what the heck? Let them be in the final. They won't stand a chance on earth to win or anything, but and the juries will keep them down. But they're good fun. Let them be. Live and let live, I say.
However, what few people have picked up on is that this is the first Melodifestivalen entry that I can remember which uses the word hen, which is the fairly new non-gender specific pronoun in Swedish. So therefore, it's a feminist anthem, isn't it?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't stretch that far. I think that hen is a very new word. And it still has a bit of a shock factor in Sweden, and that's why they included it. They don't have a message with it. They just thought that someone will react even more to it if they use it, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks for that, Tobias. Gav, I don't actually need your opinion on who will come last, because you've actually published on ESCtips.com, your first website for everything Eurovision related, a breakdown of exactly how you think the scores will go. So I know that you think that JTR will come last with 16 points, 9 from the jury and 7 from the televote. Have you changed your mind since then?
No, but what I will say is that breakdown, what I do is proportionally work out what I think each of the juries will award based on past history. You have some very pink-leaning juries that tend to go for very kind of dance, chart-related songs, and you have some maybe more authentic-leaning juries that go for, well, Germany aren't included this year, but they always tend to go for acoustic-type songs. And it is a very pink-leaning jury this year. So I've been able to kind of chuck some figures together and then just adjust them so it meets that 473 point mark for each side of the vote, and that's what I ended up with. And I just think at the beginning of the running order, both Groupie and JTR they don't really stand out, and then nor does Jessica Andersson.
Yeah, I have Jessica as 11th with 29 points to be exact, and then Dina Nahr as 10th. You've factored in a higher televote for Samir, which will probably cause Tobias a huge amount of pain. But anyway, now, we're talking about juries. So, Tobias, who do you think will be the jury favourite?
Well, I think that's a hard twist, actually. I must say. I think that maybe they will like Mariette a lot, and because of she has this very artistic approach that I really appreciate, and I think that they will sort of give points to that rather than to the song, which I understand what everyone else sees in it, but I think that it's a little bit lacking. I don't think her song is all that, but I think really that the big jury favorite, as well as the big televoting favorite, is bound to be Måns Zelmerlöw, because it's modern, it feels relevant, and for me it stands out as the sing as the most high quality song of the year. They don't do their job properly unless they award Måns heavy scoring for that song.
So you don't think that the juries will award Jon Henrik Fjällgren overly many points then, Tobias?
I think there's a risk that the juries will misunderstand that entry and find it, kitsch or as a gimmick, or that it's something that, some kind of ethno trend that would have suited Eurovision better in the 90s or something. I think they will misunderstand how genuine this song really is. I just have a little feeling that they will hold back a little bit.
And how can they not misunderstand it? The only thing that lacks in that performance is the Russian old ladies making bread on that stage. How on earth I'm sorry for interrupting here, but I completely agree with Tobias here. I think that Jon Henrik Fjällgren will get a higher televote than from the juries, because the juries will absolutely think that this is all kitsch, because they've got those three ghosts hanging in the ceiling, supposed to be the Northern Lights, and then they have these two people dancing folk dance, but not being able to do it according to the music, and there's an open fire, and then there's this guy with the drum and everything. It's too much kitsch. Nobody has thought through this number properly, and I think that will break Jon Henrik Fjällgren in the final.
I think so too. I pretty much agree with everything there. Yeah, I don't see the juries rewarding that very highly.
Okay, Gav, what's your opinion as an outsider to Sweden about Jon Henrik Fjällgren's song?
Well, during the heat, it really did stand out. It was something new. We kind of got a reprise of his Sweden's Got Talent performance, and it did feel like something different. It had that kind of winner's air, but he was on home territory, so the crowd roared whatever he did. I think he's going to get a very high televote, but I don't think it's going to be as high as maybe one or two others. But like Torbjörn and Tobias say, I don't think the juries are going to go for it. I find it kitsch. I've kind of kept it quite low on my jury score, and I've tended to think that the jurors will go for Mariette's song instead.
I do worry about Jon Henrik. I worry that he has the inability to remember lyrics, because apart from the spoken bit, the lyrics just seem to be mumbling. So I slightly worry about that. Maybe, like Finland's entry, he has slight learning difficulty. I don't know. Anyway, Gav, there's one...
You're evil, Andy.
Yes, that was pretty evil. But that also underlines my problem with the whole song, that the international juries wouldn't understand the cultural context. They won't understand the concept of yoik, and that would work against it in Vienna as well. And that could keep the televoting numbers down as well. As Tobbe said, that Swedes like to be represented by a song they think will do well.
Moving on,
There we go.
I wanted to ask something, Gavin. You actually have a very high jury score that you predicted for Aether. Can you tell us about your reasoning there?
Yeah, I think even though it's a bit of a Taylor Swift knockoff, I think it's one of the best pop packages. I actually think, from a pure showmanship standpoint, I think it's even better than Måns' song. But obviously Måns' song. But he has his visual gimmick that will help him and will get lots of support from the kids. But then I wonder, are they voting for him or the cartoon character? I'm not sure. But I think it's a great pop package. Lots of energy. She's a much better vocalist than Ace Wilder last year. And there's a big note towards the end of the song, and she really holds it and delivers it. And like, here we go, here's one for the pronunciation, Robin Hoinberg. He topped the jury score.
About 2 years ago, but you practiced then.
He topped the jury score back then, and he had he had a much bigger note, but it stood out. And I think she could do very well. She'd get rewarded for that note and just the general feel of the package. And it's bright, it's pink, it's lively. Yeah, I think they'll be entertained at that point of the final.
I fully agree with Gab here. I think that out of these 12 songs, if you take Måns out of the running, I would say that Isa is the best package. It's a problem that the song is so obviously inspired, if we use that word, which is a nice euphemism for stolen. But I think she's so energetic and she's one hell of a performer, really. She brings so much energy onto that stage. And even if I'm reluctant every time the performance starts, she wins me over before the end of it. I think she's fantastic. I think possibly it would be better for her not to win and maybe do it again in 2 or 3 years with a better song and then represent Sweden. But she's awesome.
And I can only agree. Yeah. I think that Isa will do well both from the juries and the televotes. I think Isa will have a more even score there from the jury and the televotes rather than Mariette. I think Mariette will do better with the juries but less in the televotes.
Yeah.
But I also agree with Tobias that winning with this song would not be good for her. It would be better for her to return in 2 years' time when she's turned 18 and she can she can aim for a pop career fully and then just win it all with a great song.
Torbjörn, how many of Sweden's viewers tune in for the first time for the Melodifestivalen final? Are there many floating voters?
Well, I would say there hasn't been real numbers to this, but there are 3 million watching each and every semi-final. But that's not the same 3 million, of course. Probably 2.5 million is the same people, and then there's a variation of the other. And then for the final, they all come together to watch it. So it will probably be up to 3.7 million perhaps this year in the final. And there might be like a 200,000 or 300,000 viewers that hasn't seen anything of the semi-finals, but the rest will have seen the semi-finals. At least one of them. Nice.
But if we were to go by the charts, we would obviously expect Måns to win the televote at a canter.
Yeah.
But then if you look at Erik, Isa, Mariette, they're all quite far down the charts.
Well, actually, Torbjörn, you did an article, was it yesterday or the day before, about the Spotify listens, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And there are all... hang on. Måns is in the top of the songs being streamed on Spotify right now. But then both Eric and Hasse Andersson and Samir and Victor are up in the top 10 as well. So, but Jon Henrik Fjällgren is further down. Isa is further down as well.
Yeah. Why do we think Isa's been forgotten?
I think that perhaps because when people see her on Saturday, they will go, "Oh, Jesus, this is really good."
When we first had the songs released, I don't think, even the betting markets, but I think generally people as a whole, they didn't expect her to go through. Yeah. But after the performance, the market just agreed. Everyone started backing Isa because she sold the performance, and I think that's why she'll do so well in the final.
Yeah, I also think that Spotify is a difficult tool to predict the outcome because there's such a specific group of the audience that actually use Spotify actively, and I mean they're not necessarily representative for the people who will actually sit down on Saturday and watch the final.
Hang on, Tobias. Do you mean the Spotify people from ages 4 to 55? Is that the very specific Spotify listeners you're talking about?
No, but I think that there's a hardcore group that uses Spotify very much, and I know my mother, for instance, she listens a lot to Spotify, but she doesn't look for songs and she doesn't find songs and she doesn't, she listens to the stuff she already knows, etc. I wouldn't bet my house on the fact that the winner on Spotify is the same
Before we go on to the final prediction, there's a few we haven't really discussed. Those are the songs by JTR, and indeed Hasse Andersson, everybody in Skåne's favourite. Is there anything to be said about these, one of these songs, Tobias?
Well, I could go for Hasse...
I've got Lina Svenning as well. Lina Svenning,
yeah.
Sorry.
I could go for Hasse Andersson here, in the defense of him. When I was little, he was very, very popular, and my parents loved him. So he was on heavy rotation in our household, and I'm very familiar with his old material. And I'm very glad that he's there and that people appreciate him again and notice him and pay attention to him.
I absolutely love the song, but I hate the fact that the songwriters have already published parts of the songs in Japan. So I don't really like that this song is in the final, even though I love how Hasse does it and how he performs it. I would like to mention Linus Svenning and Dina Na as two artists that very well might end up in the very bottom as well. There's a reason why we never mentioned them, because we've forgotten them.
Exactly.
So maybe it will be those two ending up at the very, very bottom of the scoreboard Saturday, because Dina Na has a good performance in an up-tempo song, but Isa will outdo her by miles, and so will Måns Zelmerlöw. And Linus, he's been very nervous during his performances. He's got something that sounds like an Irish entry to the Eurovision Song Contest, and there are lots of other guys singing better than him, and who will make better performances Saturday. So that might be a reason why we didn't talk about him at all.
You say Irish, but maybe also a little bit of Emily de Forest.
Oh yeah,
Spending. Yeah, Gav, what's your opinion?
Yeah, Linus, has he got a career out of this yet? Because he hasn't released an album from what I've read so far. Is he going to be returning to YouTube?
Well, the thing is, Brother was a substantial hit, and it was the kids' favorite last year. But apart from that, his second single and stuff like that, nothing flew. So I'm not sure whether he has a proper singing career yet or not.
Yeah, and it feels, I felt from the start that this isn't his song. I feel that the song is quite good, but I would never expect Linus Svenning to perform it, and I don't really see why Linus Svenning is the one performing it, because I don't see them really fit together. It feels like he struggles with it and feels uneasy about it somehow. And then with Dina Na, I think that she's possibly the most probable last place in the final, because I don't get, she's performing the best she can. She's really trying to give it energy, but I can't feel that she would ever connect with the cameras. I get bored, I like the song when I hear it in my headphones, but when I watch it, I don't think I watch the entire performance even once, because it bores me. I lose connection with her. I feel that she's someone who just stands there and sings, and why should I care?
Well, now that we've discussed pretty much all the entrants, it just remains to ask our valued guests who they think will be their 1, 2, 3. I will start with Gavin. Now, I predict that your 1, 2, 3 will be number 1, Måns Zelmerlöw. 2 will be Jon Henrik Fjällgren with 135 points, and 3rd will be Mariette with 127 points. Do you stand by that, Gav?
I kind of do. Whether the points will match up, I'm not sure. But out of any of those, I would be more tempted to lose Fjällgren and replace him with Isa.
Okay. Tobbe, what is your 1, 2, 3?
This is hard. I think Måns will be the winner. but then it will be really even in the runner-up and the second runner-up. I think that Mariette might be up there. I think that Erik Saade might be up there. Then it's also Isa and Jon Henrik. I think that Jon Henrik and Mariette might be losing out on the top three, so it might be Isa and Erik Saade instead in the runner-up and second runner-up.
Okay, so Cooper thinks that Erik Saade will be popular. Tobias, your take on it?
Well, my take on it is actually that it's very hard for me to make a top three, because I believe that the only reasonable choice here is Måns Zelmerlöw. If it's anyone else, it will be a completely failed, lost opportunity for Sweden. Even with the sort of ballad-heavy and sort of weak lineup that seems to be awaiting us in Vienna, I think that Måns Zelmerlöw is the only one that really stands a chance internationally. But for the sake of the format of the podcast, I would say that I probably predict Isa in second place and Mariette in third place. Erik Saade probably fourth.
Okay, well, ending on that note, it's probably time to end our second podcast of 2015. I've got to mention for non-Swedish speakers, you may need to learn 2 new Swedish numbers because the final has been extended this year. You will need to remember 11, that's 11, and 12, that is 12. But, however, it does seem that sex will be on the menu this Saturday. When I say that, I mean the Swedish number for 6, rather than any other disgusting, dirty interpretation you put on that. Thank you so much to our guest tonight. Thank you, as ever, Gavin.
Thank you, Andy, for presenting and battling valiantly through the connection issues.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Torbjörn. I hope I didn't speak all too much over you this time.
Not at all.
And thank you as ever, Tobias.
Well, sunshine from Helsinki to all of you out there.
And I wish you a happy Melodifestivalen. Goodbye from me, Scandi Andy. Goodbye.
ESCtips.com will return with another show soon. In the meantime, show us some love by following us and sharing this podcast with your Facebook and Twitter friends.
Until next time, auf Wiedersehen.